All right. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be going live today and sharing with you one of the #1 questions I get asked on a regular basis in my DMs regarding human design. So say hello if you're here. I am going to pull up the comments on my phone so that I can respond in real time. If you are catching the replay, feel free to say hello as well. I still want to hear from you. And if you are catching this on YouTube, just say hello in the comments and I will definitely be commenting back. So this video is going to be about the 4 arrows in your human design. And in just a moment, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about and explain it a little bit better. But essentially, the 4 arrows deal with what we call your primary health system. In your human design, your PHS, your primary health system, these 4 arrows, they tell you a lot about the way that you operate. And when we talk about things, when we're discussing the primary health system, in terms of masculine and feminine, I do want to be clear, we're not talking about gender when we're talking about the masculine and the feminine energy here. We're literally talking about action, structure, right? Masculine force energy versus the feminine flow, ease, receive energy, right? So it's not a gender thing. I definitely don't want you misconstruing that and thinking that you can somehow see one's gender in your human design. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is that these 4 arrows do give us a little bit of an indication of whether you are more of a push person or more of a pull person. And this helps to give a lot of clarity for people who are maybe submerged in a certain, environment where people have certain core values or certain practices that teach like this is the way to do it. And you'll see what I mean in just a minute. So I am going to share my screen with you and share a few charts that go into or to go into the primary health system and to kind of give you some kind of context for this, right? So if you have your own chart, feel free to pull that out now. I am going to pull up some of my family's charts from my body graph. So this is your human design, right? Or this is my human design, I guess I should say. And what we're talking about here are these 4 arrows, right? So the 4 arrows on either side of your body graph. And so what it is that we're looking at here when we're looking at you see that there's 4 arrows, right? There's 2 on each side. And what I really want to distinguish is the 2 sides of your body graph for just a moment. So the red side, this is your unconscious chart. This chart was written about 3 months before you were born when there was a firing of neurological waves inside of the womb when you were still cooking in there. So that is when your unconscious chart was written. And the unconscious chart deals more with the physical body, right? Then when we go over to the other side of your chart, this is the conscious chart. This chart was written the moment you took your first breath. And this is what we would call the mind, right? So this is the body and this is the mind. So when we're looking at these 4 arrows on the left side of your chart, the red side, the unconscious, this is going to be more about the body. And the other side, right, will deal more with mental, intellectual, mind stuff. So let's start with the first arrows on the left side of the chart, the red unconscious chart. And so arrow number 1 is this top arrow here. It is the top left arrow. This one deals with digestion. And yes, I do mean literal digestion, as in how you consume food. But there's also, we're talking about how you digest the world around you, right? So how you learn best, how you structure your days best. So if you have a left facing arrow, which, right, would be going the other way. If you have a left facing arrows are more masculine, right? And energy, we talked about that just a moment ago. So it's going to be more calculated, more structured. If you have a left facing arrow for this top arrow, You're going to be someone who thrives when there is a structure, a set schedule. You wake up at a certain time, you eat at a certain time, you eat about this much, right? At this particular meal. You're someone who works best on rhythm. And that also goes for consumption of information. So you are someone who would do best if you have a left facing arrow for this top left arrow, you would be doing best with, assigning yourself, well, I'm going to listen to 2 hours of podcast and audiobook a day, and I'm going to spend 1 hour on YouTube a day, and being very conscientious about the timing of how you're consuming information, when, where, how, etc., and allowing there to be some sort of rhythm to it. Now, if you're like me and this arrow is right facing, then that is a more what we call feminine digestion, right? Oh, I love you, Carlene. You're so sweet. Hi, Becca. Oh, hi. I'm so happy to see you. So if you have this top digestion arrow, if you are right facing like me, the right facing digestion is more in flow, right? So maybe some days you could eat Thanksgiving meal all by yourself. Maybe some days you might eat a saltine and you're like, yeah, I'm good for today. You're not someone who does best if you are on a strict structured schedule. So there needs to be a little bit of wiggle room. There needs to be a little bit of relaxation to the way that your day is structured. If you have a right facing arrow for this top arrow, you're constantly learning from the world and environment around you. You see, for me, right, to give some context to this, you see a lot of my posts, a lot of my like educational or inspirational posts, they don't come necessarily from like information or something I've learned. It comes from something that I've observed, right? And usually something totally out of left field, like I'm watching a reality show or something like that, and I'm just observing people. So that is how the right facing arrow works for digestion. So let me know in the comments if this top arrow for you, if it's facing left or if it's facing right. So let's go into the second arrow. The second arrow is the environment. Now this one is really interesting to me because the environment is not necessarily like where you need to go, but more like how you fit in it. Okay. So again, if you have a left facing arrow, more masculine, the left facing arrow is there to be observed, right? So if you have a left facing arrow for this second arrow, the bottom left arrow, then you are someone who is designed to integrate into an environment, to excel, and to be someone who stands as an example, someone who people can point at and say, that's how you get it done, right? Now, if you have a right facing arrow here like me, you are someone who does better when you are doing kind of a flow. You go new places, you do new things. If you know me, on a personal level, you'll know I spent some time in my 20s living in Oregon and living in Texas and living in Hawaii and just kind of traveling and doing my own thing. And everywhere I went, I would learn something new. Even now, I'm not necessarily traveling to different places, but I'm going to new environments, doing new things, right? Like getting involved in church and different things like that. And it's not necessarily my job to be a leader, although I do tend to go into more leadership roles, that defined will, single definition, whatever. That's not what we're here to talk about today. But that aside, I'm designed to be someone who learns from different environments. So it's not really my place to integrate into one single environment, but more my place to kind of hop around and go different places and do different things in order for me to learn what I need to learn to teach others, right? So it's a different style. Oh, thanks, Asia. It's a different style of teaching, right? But still just the same. So let me know if you have a left facing arrow or right facing arrow for that second arrow. So let's move over to the mind side, right? We just covers for the body, our digestion, and our environment. So let's move over to the mind, right? So over in the mind, the top arrow here on the right-hand side, oh no, I'm unstable. Thanks, Mercury retrograde. Okay, so just in case I skipped a little bit and you may have missed that, that top arrow on the right-hand side, this one deals with awareness. Now, this arrow is really, really important, especially for parents out there who want to teach your children how to learn at their best pace, right? So in contrast to the way that they digest information, awareness tells us more about how they recall information. Okay. Hi, Sarah. So if this arrow, if your top left arrow is facing left, I'm sorry, your top right arrow, excuse me. If your top right arrow is facing left, then that is, again, more masculine energy, more logic minded, right? This left facing arrow on the top right is built for traditional schooling, right? Because traditional schooling is all about structure and patterns and recalling exact details, right? If you think about like standardized testing and things of that nature. And even when I look at, I was very curious, you can see I've got my whole family's chart here. Me and my sister, I mean, she's my stepsister, it really doesn't matter, but you know, growing up in the same house, she's 9 years older than me. And bless my little heart, I was kind of a know-it-all, you know, that open ajna, you guys. So I was kind of a know-it-all when I was a little kid, and we would be at the dinner table and I'd like correct her, right? I'd like correct her grammar, you know, like cringe, right? But she would be really like combative with me, and she would, you know, was really irritated and upset that I would do that. And, you know, she would always talk about how she wasn't really like school smart, right? She's a very intelligent woman. She's very capable and strong-willed, and she's, you know, she's an incredible person, but yeah, she's not like built for school. And when you go look at her, she's got that right facing arrow, right? So the right facing arrow up on top there is more of a creative mind, right? Built for thinking outside the box. If you've got a left facing arrow here, you're going to be someone who thinks in patterns, who thinks in details, who thinks like that, and can recall details. But if you have a right facing arrow here, you're going to be someone who's, you know, maybe you struggled in school and standardized testing like wasn't your thing. And so if you've got a child who's got this arrow right facing, it's really important to honor the way that they think, okay? Because it's not that they don't know what they're talking about. It's just that they don't necessarily think in the details. They think more in the creative way of getting there. Okay, so then let's move on to this last arrow. Now, this arrow is one of my favorites to discuss with people, especially in my field, because I work with a lot of spiritual people. I work with a lot of people who tap into laws of, you know, manifestation and things like that, the law of attraction, right? And so there are kind of two schools of thought on manifestation, right? There seems to be you know, one side where people say you need to be really specific. You need to know exactly what it is that you're asking for and put it in like an Amazon order to the universe, right? And then on the other side of that, there are people who say it's more about the feeling and just know how you want to feel and, you know, attract things that are on that frequency to you, right? And these seem to be sort of conflicting pieces of advice, right? Pieces of information. So I want to offer you a little bit of perspective that this arrow here can tell you which type of manifester you are. Okay. So remember, the left arrows are all more masculine, more structured, more detailed. So if you have a left facing arrow for this bottom arrow here, then you are a specific manifester. So you are someone who works best when you've got a vision board, right? And you're saying specific details. Hey, Sabrina. So you're, you know, putting in that Amazon order to the universe, so to speak. Now, if you are someone like me who's got this arrow right facing, then you are a non-specific manifester. And so what this means is it's more about knowing how I would like to feel. I was talking to someone about this recently, and it reminds me a lot of, I think I was talking to Carlene actually. I was comparing it to being like on a date with God. okay, that when this arrow is right facing, this is more of a, I know that I, when I'm going on a date with someone, I like to be surprised. I don't want to have to ask for, this is what I want it to look like. This is what time I want you to pick me up. This is where I want to go. Like, I enjoy being courted. I enjoy being surprised. I enjoy knowing that my partner knows me enough that they're going to surprise me with the things that I would enjoy. And so if you have a right facing arrow, don't get frustrated with, the specifics, the need to be so specific about what it is they're asking for. Feel free to know that God knows your heart, and you just have to accept. At this point, it's more about accepting, yes, this is the standard that I'm at. This is what I want. Sabrina, that's awesome. Left facing is so cool. My boyfriend has a left facing arrow for that specific manifestor, and man, oh man, I am peanut butter and jealous. He is so like magical that he can just, yes, this is, and he's got that sacral authority too. It's just, he can be so sure about what it is that he wants, and he can just say it out loud, and then boom, it's just delivered, prime order. It's crazy. But in certain, like I was joking about, we're having a weird situation happen right now where like we haven't been able to pay rent for a while because like our like pay portal isn't working or whatever. So our landlord is, it's on her side of things. Like we have been like actively messaging her and trying to get this resolved. But I was joking yesterday. I was like, maybe this is my non-specific manifestor way of, creating space for us that, cause he's like working 2 jobs right now and he's feeling really like stressed about it. And I'm like, you don't need to stress. Like we don't even need to pay rent right now. And of course we do, but, it's just a joke, but you get what I'm saying, right? That if you're a non-specific manifestor, sometimes things show up in unique ways. It's not exactly what I asked for, but I'll say thank you anyway, because ultimately I'm getting what I wanted, right? I'm getting what I wanted, which was space and time to breathe. I didn't necessarily need, to put in a specific order, like my order has been fulfilled. So I hope that clarifies some of the arrows to you guys. And, like I said, this is a really great idea for you, parents, go in here and understand, how does your child operate? Like literally, when I look at this and I see that my daughter's, digestion, that she has that right facing arrow, I'm not surprised, because some days she's really not that hungry. And some days I swear she eats more than me and my boyfriend combined. And how does that happen? Where does she put it in that little body? It's insane. But that's just how, that right facing digestion works, that sometimes you're going to want to eat a lot and sometimes not so much. Sometimes she's going to want to consume a lot, sometimes, she wants to play and run, and she's just like so like high key energetic, and sometimes she's just like super chill. And so she's got that kind of waning and waxing sort of energy, so to speak. Now I can also see here that she has a left facing arrow for her awareness arrow. And that's really awesome, especially knowing that she's going to school this year and she is going to a, traditional structured school. They do have, this is a really awesome school, and they've got like awesome art programs and all kinds of stuff that fosters different types of learning. So if she didn't have a left facing arrow, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But I know, in my heart of hearts, and I can feel confidently that she can go into school, and when they sit her down with a standardized test, that she can handle it, and that it's not going to be something that I need to, mentally like prepare her for or emotionally prepare her for. She'll be able to manage it. And then also, right, what if all of your arrows are facing left or facing right? That's, I've seen that a couple of times, Becca, actually. One of my friends, she's a manifestor, and she, her job is to initiate, and she has all left facing arrows. I'm like, dang, girl, talk about initiating. She's just a very masculine person. Now, this does not mean that she is a literal masculine person. She's a very feminine individual. However, the way she functions, the way she operates, the way she enters into the world is going to be very masculine. Now, if you look at my sister, for example, she has all right facing arrows, right? So she does have a more flow, a more feminine demeanor when things are going to be ultra structured and things are going to be super like specific. Oh, I'm unstable again. I'm just going to wait a moment. Okay. That Mercury, I swear, you guys, I did not anticipate the level of technological difficulties that this particular retrograde would bring. My goodness, it has just been every single call, every single meeting. I'm having just multiple. I don't even know how long I've been live. I feel like it cannot have been longer than 15 minutes. And we've had 2 glitches. So it's just real funny. Anyway. So Becca, I hope that answers your question. If all arrows are facing left or facing right, it doesn't necessarily mean anything about you, right? It just means that, you know, in the case of my sister here, where all of her arrows are right facing, she has a more feminine approach to the world, that she does better when she is in flow and she's not putting pressure on herself to create excess structure, that she's allowing herself to think outside the box, that she's allowing herself to be surprised by the universe, right? That she's not necessarily so fixated on it has to come this way, it's got to be like this, right? When she tries to be overly controlling in her life, she's going to feel like she's swimming upstream. It's going to be much more difficult for her to feel the relaxed, you know, satisfied signature feeling that she's supposed to feel as her, you know, particular type. So I hope that answers your question, Becca. But yeah, so this is one of my favorite things to talk about, you know, because it's one of the things that I get asked about the most frequently. And it does give a lot of, I think, a lot of insight to how you specifically operate, right? Because it's so much more than just your type. It's so much more than even just your authority and strategy. Although I will tell you that with all of the information that's here, and there's so much information, you guys, there's even more information that's in your chart that we can't see here. I use another software system that allows me to go a little bit deeper into what they call the chains of your design. I'm not going to go into that because you're not here for that, right? You're here because you want to know how to use it. And that's what I'm here to give you. I'm here to take all of the information and make it easy and applicable so that you can actually use it in your real 3D life. So if you enjoyed this video, please let me know. I had a really good time teaching it to you today. If you are catching the replay, again, just let me know, you know, what your arrows are looking like. Let me know if this experience resonates with you. And if you have any particular questions, like what do the 4 arrows mean? And you want that demystified, you'd like me to break down that part of the human design chart, feel free to ask me a question because I do go live at least once a week. So until next time, love you guys so much. Feel free to check out the links that are in the description. The Penta is opening in March. I'm so excited. Oh, you're welcome, Becca. The Penta is going to be my human design ongoing membership container. And so this is really perfect for families, especially, and for people who are trying to understand human design, but may not necessarily be ready for, you know, a full, huge, intensive experience and really want to be able to slowly drink it in and digest it. So feel free to check out the link for that. It's in the description. And until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye, y'all.